It's a plan that could reshape the future of education in the Lone Star State.
What we're trying to do is to give parents more tools in their toolbox, because raising kids and educating kids is difficult.
Education savings accounts move one step closer to becoming reality. We look closer at the consequential legislation making its way to the House floor. Texas has a vacant seat in Congress, but Governor Abbott is not rushing to call a special election. Critics say he's playing politics, keeping the seat open to help Republicans, while the governor says he has a good reason to move slowly.
No family, no patient should be targeted for trying to keep their child alive, for trying to access care for their loved one.
A push for accountability after leaked emails show an insurance company hired investigators to get information on patients and lawmakers. How the revelations could lead to action at the Capitol.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. One of Governor Greg Abbott's top priorities is headed to the Texas House floor. After hours of debate, the House Public Education Committee advanced legislation to establish an education savings account program. The plan to help parents pay for private schools using tax dollars now faces a hurdle it's failed to clear in the past. School children from different parts of the state toured the Capitol on Thursday, learning lessons about state government. At a building not far away, lawmakers made decisions that could have a lasting impact on how they learn those lessons. At issue, a program to allow families to use tax dollars to go to private school.
There are struggling parents in districts and from families that are certainly not as fortunate as you or I are in terms of our economic status. And all this does is doesn't make anybody do anything. It simply provides a choice.
Opponents question who benefits most from the plan. One lawmaker pointed out Texas billionaire Elon Musk's 8 school-age children would be eligible.
So if you sent them to a private school from pre-K to senior year, that's a total of $1.2 million in taxpayer funds for Elon Musk.
They also have concerns about the $1 billion program and the effect it'll have on public schools.
This voucher bill will eventually destroy public schools.
During a party-line vote, the Public Education Committee sent the Education Savings Account bill to the full Texas House. Republican supporters arguing the plan won't affect public school funding.
I guess I get frustrated that this is somehow taking money away, because it's not taking anything away from the permanent school fund.
Last session, the Republican-controlled House killed the proposal. Supporters believe this time will be different. The impact on Texas children yet to be determined. The Education Committee also approved legislation to increase funding for Texas public schools. House Bill 2 increases the basic allotment, raising state funding by $395 per student. The committee voted 13-2 to pass the legislation. It now goes to the full House for consideration. Our team spoke with Governor Greg Abbott just hours after the Texas House Public Education Committee passed the plan to allow parents to use public funds to pay for private schools. It's one of the governor's top priorities.
The deal is we can do both. We can prioritize public education as well as pass school choice to ensure that every parent is going to have the ability to choose the school best for their child.
We wanted to provide some context about what the governor had to say. We asked why he made education savings accounts an emergency item while not giving increased school funding the same priority.
We're going to finish this session with an all-time record high of funding for public schools, an all-time record high for teacher pay raise. We will ensure that public schools are going to be able to compete against school choice. But importantly, school choice will inject competition into the education process to ensure that both public schools as well as private schools will be achieving the best.
The governor included teacher pay raises among his emergency items. The Senate already approved a bill for graduated raises based on experience in a school district and based on the size of the school district. Per the National Education Association, the average teacher salary in Texas is just above $60,000. That is 30th in the nation. Currently, Texas lawmakers are working on funding for students and teachers. According to Education Committee Chairman Brad Buckley, again, the latest House bill raises the base allotment per student by $395. While that would be a record, in order to keep up with inflation and match purchasing power of before the pandemic, the allotment would need to rise nearly $1,400 a student. For 4 weeks, the congressional seat left empty by the passing of former Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner has remained vacant, and Governor Greg Abbott has yet to call a special election. The vacancy expands the narrow Republican majority in the House to 7 seats. At a news conference at the Texas Capitol, some Houston area Democrats accused the governor of playing politics.
The truth is that Governor Abbott is rigging the U.S. Congress to protect Republicans. My constituents in House District 147, who all reside in the historic 18th Congressional District, are without representation in Washington to date only because he knows that Congressional District 18 will elect a Democrat.
The criticism is also coming from the national level. U.S. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries told reporters House Democrats would likely sue Abbott over delaying the call for a special election for the District 18 seat. But the governor told us he has a good reason for waiting to call an election for the open seat.
Know this, and that is, that election is in Harris County, and Harris County is a repeat failure as it concerns operating elections. Had I called that very quickly, it could have led to a failure in that election, just like Harris County has failed in other elections. They need to have adequate time to operate a fair and accurate election, not a crazy election like what they've conducted in the past.
Abbott said he would call a special election soon, but did not give a timetable for that announcement. We reached out to the Harris County Clerk's office, and in a statement, County Clerk Tanisha Hudspeth says she remains fully prepared to conduct the special election as soon as the governor issues the order. For context, this would be the second special election in the 18th Congressional District in less than a year. Last July, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee died after a battle with cancer. In August, less than 3 weeks after Lee's death, Governor Abbott called a special election to fill the remainder of her term. That election was held in November, but Lee would have been up for re-election, so voters actually had 2 elections for the 18th congressional seat. One to fill out the remainder of Jackson Lee's term, and one for the new term. Jackson Lee's daughter, Erica, won the special election and held the seat until January when the new Congress was sworn in. Meanwhile, Sylvester Turner won the general election and took over the seat at the start of the congressional session. The 18th district was once held by Texas political icon Barbara Jordan. Democrats have won every election in that district since 1972. Democrats make a big change to try to end a losing streak in Texas.
We can either argue with people and tell them they're wrong, or we can look in the mirror and we can own up to it and we can make it right.
We speak one-on-one with the newly elected state party chair, how his plan aims to help the blue team win in Texas. The Texas Lottery Commission takes its biggest vendor to court. We look closer at what's behind the legal action and ongoing questions facing the commission. A company that gets funding from the state to manage the care of sick and disabled children accused of using investigators to target patients. The changes that could be on the way after a heated hearing. The Texas Lottery Commission notified its biggest vendor that it's withholding $180,000 for violating its contract agreement. The commission said the vendor, known as International Game Technology, or IGT, violated the contract when it made 18 political donations. The company is now suing the commission, arguing it did not violate the contract. Capitol Bureau reporter Dylan McKim joins us now to explain what's happening.
Hey, good morning, Josh.
Good morning to you. First, explain what IGT does for the lottery.
Yeah, IGT, a lot of people may not even know what that is, but it is a huge player, and it's a huge reason we play the lottery here in Texas. If you go into any convenience store or gas station, you're going up to that clerk to buy and purchase your lottery tickets, those machines, that's all IGT. They are installing those machines, the technology that goes with them. So a really big company responsible for how we play the lottery here.
So what's this dispute all about? Why does IGT feel like it did not violate the agreement?
It really comes down to the language of that agreement. In the agreement with the Lottery Commission, it says that IGT cannot make any kind of gift or political contribution to a state officer or a state legislator. So IGT claims they did not make any contributions to a individual or a specific person, someone running for office. They made their contributions, these gifts, these payments to caucuses, legislative caucuses. Some of those payments were made for golf tournaments. So if like the Mexican American Legislative Caucus, they actually hold a golf event every year, and IGT was just a sponsor of that event. So they even had some examples in their lawsuit saying like, hey, in this check statement, this money is strictly for golf. It is not for anyone's reelection campaign. So that's where they feel, hey, we have not contributed to anyone specifically. We've only contributed to a legislative caucus with specific instructions that that money not be used to support any one person. Now, the reason they have gone to the courts here is they're looking for a third party to really say like, hey, who's in the right, who's in the wrong. So we'll have to see what a court and a judge decides.
Well, we know the Lottery Commission is also under investigation after lottery wins linked to online ticket purchases. Where does that stand now?
You know, we actually were able to have a press conference with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick earlier this week. And I was able to ask him about those two Texas Rangers investigations. And just a reminder to everyone out there, they're investigating two lottery wins in April of 2023 and a lottery win this past February. And, you know, trying to get an update, the Texas Rangers won't tell you anything as they are actively investigating. But the Lieutenant Governor did say he believes these investigations will not be completed before the end of session. And this is a big deal because it is up to lawmakers to decide whether or not the Lottery Commission will continue. They're up for sunset review this session. So they're going to have to make that determination before the findings come out in this investigation because the Texas Rangers are not only looking at those lottery wins, but also at the commission itself. Was there anything nefarious happening at the commission that allowed lottery couriers to come into our state, that allowed some unknown entity to win $95 million back in April of 2023? So, you know, it is up to those lawmakers, and we've already seen the Texas Senate pass legislation that's going to ban lottery couriers. The commission is proposing rule changes to ban lottery couriers and, you know, penalize any retailers working with them. So we'll have to see what happens, but it looks like we're going to wait at least a few more months before we see the any results of those Texas Rangers investigations.
All right. In other words, more to come.
More to come always.
Thanks, Dylan. A push for accountability after leaked emails show an insurance company hired investigators to get information on patients.
Texans deserve better, and taxpayers deserve better. Patients deserve better.
We look at what comes next after a heated hearing at the Capitol. It's been decades since Democrats won a statewide election in Texas. We'll meet the man who has the new task of turning that trend around. Leaked emails reveal an insurance company's use of private investigators to gather information on customers and state lawmakers. The company, Superior Health Plan, gets funding from the state to manage the care of sick and disabled children. We told you how the emails were revealed during a hearing of the House Committee on Delivery of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Joining us now is the chairman of that committee, Giovanni Capriglione. Welcome. We also have Hannah Mehta, the founder of the advocacy group Protect Texas Fragile Kids. Thank you for joining us too. So Representative, the leaked emails got a lot of attention. Originally, you called Mark Sanders, the now former CEO of Superior, to answer questions about the potential waste of taxpayer funds. Tell us a little bit about how that started.
Sure. I mean, let's start with the fact that Superior was funded almost entirely with taxpayer dollars, right? They used those taxpayer dollars to hire private investigators to surreptitiously follow journalists, customers, and lawmakers. I was made aware of these emails, which led to the discovery of additional information about who they were following and the intent behind them. And so in our committee hearing just a week ago, we revealed that to the public and made them answer to it.
Hannah, what are some of the concerns you've heard from the families with medically fragile children who rely on the state's Star Kids program?
You know, this is horrifying and alarming for families who literally are fighting for life-sustaining care for their children, trying to keep their kids alive. In this case, Linda Badawa was one of those who was fighting for her foster child, who was actually awarded the state to be able to breathe and maintain his trach care that was ordered by his doctor. And so we have seen this pattern of behavior from Superior, And it is alarming and horrifying that patients who are literally just trying to stay alive and follow their doctor's orders are being targeted for trying to access that care.
So in last week's hearing, Sanders admitted he authorized hiring private investigators to get information on patients. Hannah, you knew about these emails for a while. What was it like for you to hear the admission in the hearing itself?
Sunlight is the best disinfectant. There is, I think, again, a pattern of behavior here that is really disturbing. Texans deserve better, and taxpayers deserve better. Patients deserve better. No family, no patient should be targeted for trying to keep their child alive, for trying to access care for their loved one. And this could be anyone. This could be you. This could be any Texan. We should all be horrified and concerned about what we're hearing here.
One question I have is about the transparency surrounding this type of program. You know, it was even difficult for the media to get confirmation of rumors we've been hearing for months, and finally it came out in this hearing. Is there more transparency to be had in the future when it comes to this type of funding and these type of programs?
We have several bills going right now in the legislature, several on contracting, of course a few on transparency, HB 111, and a few other bills that we're working on that will require absolutely much more transparency, making sure that whether it's the press or patients or lawmakers get more access to what is going on with our dollars. I mean, we created, the Speaker of the House created the delivery of government efficiency, and I think behind efficiency is transparency. The way that we need to make sure that we do this is that everyone has access. These are taxpayer dollars. I mean, let's go, and not just a few. This is the second biggest expense for the state. Okay, there's tens of billions of dollars of contracts that are going out to provide medical care to constituents of Texas. We deserve answers. We deserve responses as soon as possible.
So I have a question for both of you. Sanders is obviously out. The company is under investigation from the AG. What do you hope changes after this? You can start.
You know, I think the truth of the matter is, Josh, there are some massive changes that need to be made in this system, but let's take one step at a time and let's start by addressing these issues and also ensuring that patients can access, incredibly vulnerable patients, can access the life-sustaining care that they need on a daily basis. And that starts with, as Gio said, some oversight, responsibility, and some transparency for where those tax dollars are going. Are they being utilized in the way that the legislature has allocated them? And are the patients, these vulnerable patients who are often in life and death situations, able to access the care that they need to remain stable? That is really the intended purpose of these programs.
You've touched on the transparency. What other changes are you hoping for?
Well, first of all, I'm thankful that Attorney General Ken Paxton is investigating Superior. I'm expecting him, and I'm sure that he will do everything he can to make sure that he digs into what they're doing, because I'll tell you, a company that has a culture of doing this probably has a culture of doing other things as well, whether it's double billing to the state, unethical behavior. I think the state should consider dropping the contracts that it has with Superior and requiring all other providers to follow ethical guidelines. And that's what I'm hopeful will happen, not just here in Texas, because I think other states across the country now are going to start looking and asking these same tough questions to their providers.
Hannah, Representative, thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
Texas Democrats looking for a new beginning.
People want a Democratic Party that will stand up and fight back, and that's what we're delivering.
We speak one-on-one with the Democrats' newly elected state party chair, how his plans aim to end a losing streak for the blue team in Texas. The Texas Democratic Party faced blowout losses in the 2024 elections. Now the party has a new person in charge. Last weekend, the party's governing board elected Kendall Scudder as their new chairman. Our Will DuPree spoke with Scudder about his plans to turn things around for Texas Democrats.
Just to put it plainly, clearly something seems not to be going all too well with the Democrats here in the state and connecting with voters out there. We saw some of the candidates backslide in support during the 2024 elections, lose some of that vote share among key voting groups like Latino voters in South Texas. I would imagine when you ran for party chair, you said, I have some ideas about how to turn things around just a bit. So let's start there. What would you like to tackle first and take that approach moving forward?
Well, let's make very clear, it's a new day in the Texas Democratic Party, and we're ready to build a grassroots apparatus in every corner of this state. There are 40 mid-sized cities in this state with more than 100,000 people, and anywhere outside of Texas it would be a population center. But what's happening here in Texas is that Democrats have neglected those areas. We can either argue with people and tell them they're wrong, or we can look in the mirror and we can own up to it and we can make it right. And so we're going to build a party in every corner of this state, from Amarillo to Beaumont to Brownsville to El Paso and Texarkana, to make sure that we're showing up and telling people in these communities why we are the party that's fighting for working families.
Now, what are some of the measures of success that you would like to see as party chair? I would imagine winning some sort of race statewide would be up there on top, but is there anything additional to that, at least right now while you're starting out?
Winning elections is always the highest priority, and that's what we're going to be laser focused on nonstop, right? But I think that there are also some wins that we can have around the state, like making sure that we're filling our county chair positions. Over 20% of counties in the state of Texas don't have a Democratic party. We have an obligation to make sure that we're filling those spots, filling precinct chair spots, making sure that people are active and engaged, and making sure that we don't have a milquetoast party that's sitting around and crying process when bad things are happening. People want a Democratic Party that will stand up and fight back, and that's what we're delivering. It is a new day in the Texas Democratic Party. We are here to stand up and fight back on behalf of the working men and women of this state.
We asked Scudder about the party's plans to recruit candidates for marquee races next year, including one for governor and one for U.S. Senate. You can see his answers and our full interview right now on our website. Just look for the link in this week's State of Texas story. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle, and we'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.